Hi, Kevin Wright here. I was recently interviewed by Nick Corkhill, and he asked me all the sort of questions that people normally ask about bridging when they want to find out more about it. I thought you'd like to watch the interview. Now, it's the best part of an hour long, so I've split it up into 4 different episodes. Here's episode 1, and the other 3 episodes are going to follow in the coming weeks. Make sure you're subscribed and hit that dingy belly thing so you don't miss any of the forthcoming episodes.
Good morning, Kevin. How are you today?
I'm very good. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thanks. So, firstly, thank you very much for taking the time to speak to me this morning. I really appreciate all the content that you put out. It's fantastic. I love watching your videos. So thank you on behalf of everyone who watches. Thank you so much for that.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
So I've prepared a few questions for you today. Probably some of it will be ground you've already covered, but hopefully if we do it in a conversational way, it might be a chance to tease out a few avenues that you haven't been down, maybe answer a few questions that you haven't covered.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm open to that. No problem at all.
Fantastic. So maybe for the benefit of people who don't have experience with bridging finance, maybe people are much more used to just using conventional mortgages.
Sure.
Perhaps as a starting point, what would be helpful is just to outline the key differences between a bridge and just a conventional buy-to-let mortgage.
Sure. Okay. Well, I often say bridges think counterintuitively in pretty much all ways compared to a mortgage. So probably the easiest thing is in some ways to forget pretty much everything you know about how mortgages work, because bridges work pretty much the opposite way. So, for example, mortgage lenders are very focused on income, your income as a backup, but also the property's income, because it's all about income-based lending. Bridging is asset-based lending, so they're not the slightest bit interested in income.
I see. Got it.
So that's one big difference. Mortgage lenders are really focused on good credit, because good credit means that you're going to keep paying, or you're more likely to keep paying the mortgage month after month, year after year. Bridges are not interested in good credit because they're only lending it to you for a few months, and then you're either going to sell the property or you're going to refinance it. So credit, not really interested in that. Condition of the property. Mortgages are based on the premise of it's ready to rent, with a minor tolerance given for small refurb work. Bridges are not bothered about the condition of the property. They'll lend in on pretty much anything, as long as you say to them, well, here's my plan to get it mortgageable. And so whatever the current condition is makes no difference in most cases. It's what you're going to do with it, not what it is at the moment, which is completely opposite to mortgage lenders, because they say, we don't allow you to do massive works, even if you wanted to, and we want it to be ready to put a tenant in there day one, pretty much. So another huge difference. Speed is another thing. Mortgage lenders have adapted poorly to post-COVID situations for understandable reasons. I mean, they've got staff shortages, with people either off with COVID or isolating from contact with someone that's got COVID. So they've got staff shortages. So
I can attest to that currently. Absolutely. I've got 2 mortgages going through right now. It's driving me crazy. I'm on the phone every day to my broker trying to get them through. They're very slow just now, the mortgage lenders.
And let me tell you, your broker is equally frustrated at how long it's taking, because they just want it done as well. So, your broker is definitely on your side there. So, I mean, it's not uncommon for mortgages to take 3 to 4 months at the moment. And we have seen some taking as long as 5 and 6 months to turn around, with some lenders that are particularly slow at the moment. Now, bridges are still geared up to work on auction timeframes because they're used extensively for auctions. So most bridges, there are a few exceptions, but most bridges are geared up to release the money within 14 to 28 days. So speed is another massive difference. So, I've just run through some of the, the major reasons.
So so it's lending on very distressed property that wouldn't otherwise get a mortgage. Yep. It's an asset-based loan rather than a loan based on the rental income. It's a much faster turnaround. So these are the main differences. So if we get into a bit more granular detail on the different types of bridge, I've heard you speak about this in the past, and you kind of group them into three main categories, I think, three main types of bridge. Could you give us that overview?
Yeah, it's five types, actually. Right. Yeah, that's okay, but that's all right. Because I've got a video I've done specifically on that, the 5 types of bridging. So the bog standard bridge is a purchase bridge where they'll lend based on the lower of the purchase price or value, pretty much like a mortgage lender would, typically 75%. A bit lower loan to value for commercial, but usually 75% on residential. Then you start bringing in the variations, and the variations are not what every bridger does, but what some bridgers choose to do. So the straightforward purchase bridge, every bridger in the market is going to give you a purchase bridge based on 75% of the lower of the purchase price or value. Now you start getting into the niches, and the first niche is a market value bridge.
Right.
So with a market value bridge, they pay much less attention to the purchase price and look at the difference between the asking price or value. So if a purchase bridge lends on the lower of the purchase price or value, and market value bridge lends on the lower of the asking price or value.
So who's determining market value in that scenario?
The bridger's valuer. The bridger uses a RICS valuer in exactly the same way that a mortgage lender would.
So they'll send someone out, they'll do a full valuation on site. Does that not slow things down a bit? I mean, at the moment, getting a survey booked in can take weeks. But...
not with bridgers, because they don't use the big valuers, big national valuation groups that mortgage lenders use. They tend to use local or regional valuers.
Did you pay more for the valuation with a bridge?
No, you pay less.
You pay less, okay.
You pay less, yeah. And why do you pay less? Because the bridgers don't take a slice of the fee like mortgage lenders do. So you typically pay your valuation fee direct to the mortgage lender, who then pays the valuer. Now, now you don't know what the valuer's actually charging the mortgage lender because you're not party to that agreement. Mm-hmm. But bridgers in that respect are more transparent because they just say, here's the value we're going to use, give them a ring and pay them the fee over the phone.
And are down valuations common?
With bridging, not as common as mortgages, no.
So maybe there's less pressure less pressure on the person doing the valuation to give a low valuation. Because I know from the mortgage lender side, they put quite a bit of pressure on the person doing the valuation not to overvalue because the lenders don't want to be overexposed. But I think you're saying with bridging, there's less of that pressure on the person doing the valuation.
Well, there is. I mean, now, particularly with a market value bridge, because the valuer is told to not focus on the purchase price, but focus on, okay, the asking price or the value, which is the two lower. Yeah. And if the focus is not on the purchase price, that's completely different to every mortgage lender where they're told to value at the lower of the purchase price or the value. Market value bridgers are told to not focus on the, tell their valuers not to focus on the purchase price, but instead on the difference between the asking price and the value. Now, the real advantage there is if you've happened to negotiate to buy below asking price.
Yeah. Tough in this market, difficult in this market.
I was just going to say, if you're following the herd and buying the sort of properties that everyone's interested in, that's a tough ask at the moment. It's not a tough ask if you're focusing on properties that you can't get a mortgage on.
I see. Yeah.
Or it's not such a tough ask because there's less demand to buy unmortgageable properties than there is the normal stuff that's going over asking price.
Okay, understood. Okay, so you've given us the first of the 5, I think.
First 2, purchase bridge and the market value bridge. Yeah.
Okay.
The third one is the refurb bridge.
Refurb bridge, okay.
So the other two just lend on the purchase price. If you want to do any work, up to you. You pay for that. Now the refurb bridge says, okay, we'll lend you 70, possibly 75% of the purchase price, but we'll also lend you 100% of the refurb cost.
So how much deposit do you need in that case?
25 to 30%.
25 to 30% of the purchase price. And then they're going to lend you the other 75 to 70% and all of the money for the refurb. That's quite a big loan.
It is. Yeah. So it reduces.
I mean, it's proportionate.
Yeah, it's popular because it reduces the amount of cash you need to get into a deal. Because
Absolutely.
normally you need a 25% deposit and your refurb money as well.
Okay.
So, you know, we do quite a lot of those. Again, it's a fairly niche product. Not every bridger does it or wants to do it. But there's a handful of bridgers that do that. And yeah, we do quite a lot of those.
Okay.
So that's that one.
That's that one, yeah.
You then got the fourth one, which is a done up value bridge.
Yeah.
Now, even more niche, even fewer bridgers doing that, but it's something that's been around for a long time, at least the last 10 years. So the premise of this is it's also called delayed completion bridging.
So when you talk about done up value bridge, this is what people mean when they say GDV or gross development value.
Yep. That's right. GDV, yeah, GDV is a term that's used typically in new build and large conversions.
Yeah.
You know, done up value is more on smaller refurbs, you know, like a 20 to 30,000 pound refurb. Both terms are accurate, but they tend to be used in different in different ways. So the key to this is that you do something that doesn't normally happen and that not every seller will agree to, but hey, none of them agree to it if you don't ask. And that is you set up the deal so that with the, and it works best for vacant properties. So you set up a deal with the seller of this vacant property that you can exchange contracts, but differently get the keys on exchange on not completion as normal.
I see.
And the second thing is you get permission to enter and do the refurb work and defer the completion until you've done the work. So
it's a bit like a lease option. It sounds a bit like a lease option to me.
It's got similarities, but it's far stronger legally.
I see. Okay.
It's a far stronger legal contract. Lease options are a weaker legal contract than an exchange.
I see. And would I be right in saying that this one that you've just described, where you get a loan based on the gross development value, these are a harder bridge to come by, and maybe you're more likely to get one as a more experienced person who's done bridging in the past, or can you go straight in off the bat and get one of those?
You'd be able to go. It's more the scale of the project than your experience. So
yeah,
you could get a done up value bridge on your first project. It wasn't, as long as it wasn't, you know, like £1 million property that, and you're having your first crack at doing a refurb. So if it's fairly you know, modest, shall we say, and you're doing a normal refurb plus putting, you know, I mean, it could be a more extensive refurb, new heating, new windows, that type of thing. But you know, it's not a a conversion into a 6 flat type of thing. But yeah, it's okay for people that are pretty much at the start of their bridging career to look at a refurb bridge. Yeah, it is more niche. There's less lenders doing it, but the point is, the process is you agree, exchange contracts with agreement of the seller, get the keys to go into the property and do the refurb work, which you spend your own cash on.
Yeah,
and then once you've finished the refurb, then we get the bridger's valuer to come in, and he's in under instruction to value what he sees and ignore the purchase price.
Yeah, yeah.
So what he sees is the property you've just done up.
Yeah.
So the valuation is based on the now done up value. And the reason they'll do that, where they won't do it on other bridges, is because when you buy it normally, the done up value is some weeks or months away.
Yeah.
So it would be a future value that doesn't actually exist. Because you've refurbed between the exchange and completion, this is now the current value. That's the difference.
I see,
So the refurb bridge, typically you'd borrow 90 to 100% of the purchase price based on the done up. So you can, in some cases, you can pretty much do away without a deposit.
But you've still got to have the money to do the renovation or the refurbishment on the property.
Still got to do the money, still got the money to do the refurb.
I see.
So then you're straight into either once you've completed the purchase, you've got a fully refurb property. You're straight into either refinancing it if that's your aim, to keep it and rent it out, or to put it on the market and sell.
Okay, got you. So was that number 4 then? We got one more.
That was number 4. Yeah, good counting. Yeah. So number 5 is one that can be used with any or all of the other 4.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's called a cross collateral bridge.
Right. Sounds complicated.
It sounds, it's not. It's essentially leveraging equity in a property you already own as a substitute for a cash deposit on a property you want to buy.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah.
And there's a lot of people sitting with a lot of equity in properties they already own. Okay, some landlords. Go on.
But I'm just thinking, how does that impact if I've got a property or several properties that I already own, but I don't own them outright? They've got loans, so I've got a mortgage lender with a first charge on that property, and then I want to use the equity in this property I already own to get a bridge on a new property. How does my existing mortgage lender feel about this on the property I already own?
Yeah,
do they
most of the time they're fine.
Okay.
If you ask them, would you accept a second charge? They'd say, yeah, just put it in writing.
Okay.
There are a minority of lenders that say we don't accept it, but they are a minority, mortgage lenders. So using that, what you picked up on the 25-30% deposit for a refurb bridge, let's say you didn't have it, or if you had it, you didn't want to use it, but you had a big bundle of equity in one or more properties that you'd own, you could say, instead of putting 25 to 30% cash down, you could do what I would call a no cash sale. That's not the same as no money down, by the way. A no cash sale where the bridger gives you one loan, let's say 75% of the purchase price on the one you're buying, but they take a second charge if you've got a mortgage on it, and use the equity in the property you already own as the deposit to buy. So effectively, you're borrowing 100% of the purchase price by putting up 2 properties as security.
So you'd need a property in your existing portfolio with sufficient equity to make up the 25% deposit on the new place. Yeah. I see. You're making me rethink my own strategy now.
I often do. I often do. Yeah. Now, to be fair, you're going to need a big chunk of equity. So if you're 75% geared, which a lot of landlords are, it's not going to work. Yeah. So you'd need it to realistically, you'd need at least 50% equity in any given property that you own. Yeah. Yeah. To make this work. But there's a lot, there's a lot of people, not everyone, but there's a lot of people sitting around that have got that. Okay. And we do it gets people into bigger deals than they would otherwise do. So, some of the people that I train, they do, once they understand this, they're able to get into bigger deals than they would normally do if they were restricted to cash deposits. Absolutely. Yeah. It's a way of accelerating what you're doing. You can just take on more and gear up more quickly. Yeah. I mean, the point of that is you're still going to have to either sell the property you've purchased or refinance it a few months later. And if you're going to refinance it, you've got to refinance it at a level high enough so that it pays off the bridge and returns your cross-collateral bridged property. The charge is taken off that, the money is paid back, and you're back to your starting position with whatever mortgage you had on that property. So the exponential value in the property you want to buy has got to be there to make that work. So what did you think? Let me know in the comments down below. And hey, remember to click that subscribe button. In the meantime, check out this quick preview of the next episode. What are the
what are the crossover products, or how do you transition if you've had a bridge for 3, 6, 9, 12 months and then you want to transition onto a conventional mortgage? How does that impact your credit file if you do overrun? Is it going to then be difficult to get bridging loans in the future? Will it affect your mortgage lending, or just your relationship with that one bridger?
So the only person that knows you've got a bridging loan is you, the lender, and the broker that you use.